No, I'm very curious about the system and the movement and that you do, and particularly because, I mean, your level of health is incredible for your age, how old are you now? Over 60, aren't you?
62.
Yeah, it was incredible. So you've definitely got something that people want, and it's proof in the pudding that, you're in such great health. And there's this movement system, which is, is intriguing, to say the least. What would you say is if someone was interested in getting involved in a movement system, and perhaps they had some dabbling with Ashtanga, and they'd find, they still were, on the fence as to how to establish their practice or where it was going or what they should do. But what tips would you give for someone if they only had half an hour and weren't sure about what movement to do? But, evidently we all want health. We all want to feel more calm, right? What's the basis of your system? If you could compress it into a kind of a few bullet points that people should instigate.
A few bullet points.
Yeah.
You have three things that we're trying to do with the time we spend with our body each day. Because everyone should make an appointment to do something for themselves each day.
Yes.
In that time, you have to think, why are we spending time with ourselves in the day? It's to have the ability to connect with the world. To recognize that we're part of the world, we want to be connected. Yoga means connection, no? So the time we spend with ourselves, we should aim on creating connection. And to create connection inside the body, strength and flexibility are a very small part of that. What we want is to connect inside our body by moving good energy and loving information through our body. Because that's a message you can share with the world. If a mother connects with a child, she shares her good energy and her loving information. If you want to talk to someone, shouting at them and stealing from them doesn't help you communicate. But if you give them things and you talk lovingly, that's how you communicate. So that's what I try and do inside my body, and I make that the aim. That's number one. So on a physical level, to create good energy, loving information flowing inside the body, I encourage blood flow while keeping my nervous system calm. At the same time, I'm doing it to a stable body, but I'm not trying to injure. I'm always doing only what I can do without causing dysfunction or injury. But I encourage cardiovascular function, enhanced blood flow, while
but how do you get the cardiovascular function right? You never raise the heart. Do we not need to have a heart? Is that important in health as well?
Listen, it is important to be able to get your heart rate up when you need to. But I only do that about 1 to 10% of my practice time. The other 90% I practice so I get maximum blood flow with very low heart rate. And there's 11 other ways you can move blood through the body other than the heart. 2 of them, at least, will use breath. One of them, and 3 or 4 of them could use breath, actually. But one of them actually uses minimal breathing, another one uses the muscles of breathing, another one uses posture and movement as well, which can also be included in breath. But there are another 7 or 8 ways you can move blood through the body without using the heart. And elite athletes do this intuitively, but with learning, you can actually teach it to people. One of them is Bandha. One of them actually will create blood flow by pushing and pulling energy throughout the body with Bandha. Another one is Mudra, and Mudra is often the postural form of a pose, where one part of the joint is compressed and tense, and the opposite part is lengthened and relaxed. That happens when you move actively into a pose. So what I was going to say to you was that I have 3 things that I want bullet points. Number 1 is make the aim of the practice, not to get strong and flexible, make the aim to move good energy and loving information through your body by encouraging blood flow while keeping heart rate low and staying calm. Number 2 is stop blocking the flow of good energy and loving information. So what blocks it? Too much tension, too much stretching or inappropriate posture, too much breathing, too much thinking, and too much eating. So I tell my students, do what you're doing, but can you do it while tensing less, stretching less, breathing less, thinking less, eating less? Number 3 is encourage the flow of good energy and loving information through your body. How do you do that? Well, I said there's 12 ways you can do it, but I summarize them. 4 key things. Move actively, move from the core, breathe naturally or breathe from the core, and move fluidly. So number 1, move actively. Use your own muscles to enter a position before you use additional forces such as gravity, momentum, or one limb pulling another. 2, move from the core. Don't lock the core. always get the movement to start from the core. So if you move arm to left, the core should go to the left first. If you lift the chin up, the core should move up before the chin, etc. If you lift the hip up, the bottom of the core should lift up before your knee, for example. The third thing is breathe naturally as a base, but when you get more advanced, it means breathe from the core, meaning that the diaphragm has to initiate every part of the breath. If you bypass the diaphragm before you breathe in the chest, then you just cause stress. And when I breathe into my chest, I can still feel my diaphragm working. But someone can also breathe in the chest and you won't notice the diaphragm. It looks very similar, but eventually you can notice. And that's what I'll teach eventually. Breathe naturally or breathe from the core. And the last one, move fluidly. Don't go back and forth. If you want energy, back and forth movements are like driving a car back and forth. You use brake, accelerator, and it's jarring on the body. Move in circles. If you want to go to 4 points, up, down, forward, and backward, don't go up, down, forward, and backward, go in a circle. So the movement should be circular. The movement should be oval. There should be always, if you're doing even a salute.
Can you find that in Ashtanga?
Yes, you can. It's
how?
possible. Well,
because for most people, they take it as I agree, but it's taken as a very linear system without cyclical movements, isn't it?
Okay.
Yeah.
The way you do it is you have to appreciate the core has got 5 dimensions. The core, as we know, the core is like a small version of the trunk, and the trunk is like a large version of the spine. Everyone knows that spine bends forward and backward, side to side, twist, twist. That's 3 dimensions of movement. The spine can also lengthen and shorten. That's important. But the spine is only part of what we have as the trunk. The trunk has another dimension. It can expand and contract. So when you move anything in yoga, don't just go back and forth. It's a mistake to bend forward and backward. It's a mistake to go up and down. But if you combine up and down with forward and backward, you get better flow. So you have to lengthen. So it's a mistake, for example, for people to take their arms up and be like this. That doesn't lengthen the trunk. When the arms go up, they should be up. That's what you see Patabi Joyce was doing. His arms were up, and Prabhu Iyengar as well. But many modern people just take the arms up, shoulders down, for various reasons. Now, so that's important. But when you also add into that, expand and contract, then you're working with 3 dimensions of movement. So a good person doing, like your practice is 3-dimensional. When you do forward and backward, it's not just forward and backward. It's also lengthening and shortening and expanding and contracting. And if you can make it so the expansion and contraction is not just breathe in, breathe out, expand, contract, because that's also linear. I expand, lower back, upper back, chest, and then abdomen contract. So it's circular. In China, they call it the microcosmic orbit. I learned a lot from my Chinese teachers. And I didn't just make this up. I mean, the Chinese teachers I've had are coming from the lineage of the bodyguard of the Emperor of China. You know, so this is very, very amazing stuff. This is the
I mean, never for a moment suggesting you made it up, but it's unique in these days to hear this, this kind of paradigm being put forth. I mean, when most people think of yoga or bodily movement, they're looking for say like an obvious progress now, right? You know, like, and I'm sure people listening now will say, well, it's great, all well and good to connect to oneself and send loving information, but how will this actually make me progress, right? I want opening. I want, people talk about, and certainly less so a little bit now, but this body opening in Ashtanga was really, was really a formative aspect of the Ashtanga. Open your body, right? I mean, how does that square the idea of the wish for progress or the wish for opening in the body with what you're talking about, which is coming from a different place where we're looking to connect to information or connect to what's already there rather than ostensibly opening the body like a can of beans,
This
method, tight or,
Well, this method that I'm talking about will give you not just increased blood flow while keeping the heart rate low. It also gives you strength while feeling relaxed. It also gives you flexibility without feeling stretch. It'll also give you energy without having to breathe so much. And the thing is,
so you're not looking for a stretch, and not actively pursuing a stretch as such.
No, you feel flexible. You just feel flexible afterwards. When we feel stretch, it's dysfunction in the body. Something's wrong. Like when people cross their elbows, it doesn't feel like a stretch. But if someone were to bend their elbow and feel an elbow stretch, their next second thought would be something's wrong with my elbow. So what we want to be in yoga is to be flexible. But when you feel stretch, you know you've come to the end of your level of freedom, and the body's thinking something's wrong. So the ability to do yoga and be in yoga and to achieve a yoga posture are two different things. If you're still trying to get flexible, then you're still searching for yoga. As soon as you say I'm flexible enough, then you're in yoga. But what we want is to do a practice which doesn't feel like you're stretching, but nevertheless, you're getting into positions very easily. And if you want to get more easily in the position, then just those 4 things that I said will help. And I've often, in a workshop where I'm talking to Ashtangis, what I get them to do is I get them to do 6 poses: dog pose, Uttanasana, upward facing dog, Parshvakonasana, Parvita Trikonasana. There's enough. Maybe I do camel as well. And I just get them to test those poses first, normally, the way they normally do them. Then I get them to do a very simple set of movements from the core, and then I get, now test your posture again. And so if someone does this first, and then they do dog pose second, dog pose is easier. So you test, you do dog pose first, do that second, do dog pose again, dog pose is easier. You just have to do that for maybe half a minute. If you do Uttanasana, forward bend, and then after Uttanasana, do this, which is a forward bending spine like that, do that for 30 seconds. Every forward bend is easier. If you do upward facing dog, and then you do this, just lean back like that, and relax for 30 seconds, the upward facing dog is easier. Because this is an active movement from the core. If you breathe naturally in that movement, it will give you an easier posture. If you do this one, just like that, where I'm in this position, I'm lengthening the right side, it's soft and relaxed, left side is firm and compressed. If I do that for 30 seconds while relaxing, I can still breathe into my firm left abdomen, my soft right abdomen is there as well. And 30 seconds of that will make Parshvakonasana much, much easier.
So it's not by pursuing a more visibly deep stretch that you're getting more flexible. It's through the breathe, just the natural breath and movement.
Yeah. Effectively, what I'm doing is what I learned from India. One of my biggest teachings in India was working with Karate, which is the martial arts of India, and Malakam. Malakam is the yoga on a pole. It's martial arts. Now, I did that.
Oh, you did that? You did, yeah.
I did that in the 1980s,
Did you?
In the 1980s.
I know you've been around a while. Yeah.
I've been a long time.
You've been around a while. Right. But before we finish, Simon, I wanted to ask you about how we'd approach adjustments then from this perspective, because it was one of my big bugbears, and obviously Ashtanga, that the adjustment is just mainly pushing someone into a passive range of mobility, right? So you just get, you go into a Mysore class and you're generally pushed upon in every posture, in one direction only, right? How would you then encourage a teacher to adjust from this mentality, from this understanding, if we're not looking to actively push joints?
Yeah, I didn't see that it had good long-term results. I used to love doing a lot of adjustments. I used to get adjustments, and I found it had good short-term results, but long-term they weren't being maintained. If I'm adjusting someone now, I'm just saying to them, I might say to them, turn your shoulder in, and they're doing that. And I go, no, turn your shoulder in. And I'm hardly touched. I just say, that's what in is, do that.
So you're not actually trying to kind of, you're not pushing on anyone. Right,
Unless I absolutely have to avoid physically pushing someone into something they can't do. I just use my adjustments to suggest what they can do by themselves. So
without putting words in your mouth, do you think that's unhelpful? I mean, because people would say, I want to go back to, having had the pandemic and being on, you often hear, I want to go back into the studio to get those adjustments in Kapotasana and those ones that I can't do. With the understanding that it will facilitate their progress. Yeah.
It is potentially something that can help you, but put it this way. I love Patabi Joyce and I love Sharad, but I've had situations with them both where I felt not so good afterwards. And, where my knee went out of its socket or something like this, It happens.
Yes.
And I've also injured people in my past. I had like
Have you?
3 times.
Can't imagine that.
Three times in
Really?
teach for 45 years, things happen.
Yes.
And you don't even think of it. Like, one time I'm helping someone in trivikramaster with their legs, by the side of the face like this.
Yeah.
And I just went to hold onto them, not even to adjust them. And just by touching them, their hamstring tore.
Oh, God.
Someone was doing legs behind the head one time, both legs, yoga nidrasana.
Yeah.
I was just going to just come close to them. And as soon as I touched their shoulders, I think they tensed up. People get a bit nervous. And when they tensed up, their whole chest exploded. Just there was that whole rip. Coming up to someone to adjust them will make them a bit nervous sometimes. It only happened 3 times in my life, but I feel very uncomfortable about the fact that I've injured people. Experienced chiropractors, experienced manipulative physiotherapists can also injure people. You don't always get the best result. So as soon as you touch,
I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, is it worth it? It's like, well, there's a 5% chance that your adjustment may facilitate, an opening, say, or facilitate a deeper facilitation in the muscular fasciae. But there's a 95% chance that it could go wrong, or at least a good chance that it. And it's like, well, you have to weigh it up. There you go. Well, and that's how I feel. It's like, well, it's not worth it, and it's a Russian roulette that I'm not willing to play.
Exactly. I love doing adjustments, and I'm a manipulative physiotherapist. So
you are, yeah. I mean, if anyone can adjust, it should be you.
My son is like 15 years old, and I know I can get him, and I crack his back.
Is he practicing? Is he?
Good. He's practicing a little bit. My daughter practices much more. She does silks and flying trapeze and stuff like that.
Right.
She do kapatasana and beautiful yoga postures.
Wow.
So both of them I'll adjust, but I've known their bodies for the last 20 years.
Yeah. So and they know you as well. Importantly, and fundamentally, they know you and they're confident with you, and that makes a big difference. I mean, people will just walk off. We're going to a sidebar here, but the idea of someone just walking off the street into a studio, bang, having a heavy adjustment is just a crazy idea, really.
Yes.
Basically.
I think first learn how to do it
from a stranger.
yourself.
You have to.
Exactly.
You have
and then
to
there's
have
the whole
that
sexual
familiarity.
litigation on top of that as well.
Yes. Well, that's another subject.
Another thing on top. So
we
I love it if someone comes to massage me. I love a good massage. Very few people can massage me well because I can usually do more to myself. But if someone knows how, they can help me. There's certain places I can't reach anymore. But for most people, I think it's better to learn to do it yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a great place to leave it there today. Maybe we'll do another one on practice and aging, as you just said. There's certain places you can't reach anymore. It just made me think. Well, you're 62 now. You're practicing in a way that is just incredible for me to watch. And maybe if anyone would like to see Simon talk about practice developing as one gets older, that's a very relevant topic for us all, as something which happens to the best of us. Yeah. Even if you don't believe it now, and you're 30 years old, it will happen to you. It happened to me.
Most of my students are all in their early 20s, and usually at least twice a week I go dancing. And like last night, I had a lovely dance. I go dancing twice a week, just sort of ecstatic dance. And there's always a few young people, girls and boys.
You're still wearing the t-shirt, I can see.
We just
from the night before.
But when we get there, they start doing things like they want to do arm balances and stuff. So then we have this fantastic breakdancing time. And I love, getting on my head, spinning on my head and stuff like this. This is fun. But I don't do it in my daily practice. I do it when I have the fun of going for a dance. Balance on one hand, spin on your head, balance on the side. It's great fun, And then I let my heart, every once in a while, in my dance, I let my heart rate go right up high, and it's ecstatic. But 95% of my practice time is very meditative. Still, I get very warm. I can take off my clothes in the snow after practice. But very warm, very calm, not much breathing. But I think this is what I'm meant to be doing. And, when you're 62, it's a bit different. The body doesn't do some of the things it used to do before.
Yeah.
But I'm not really that interested in doing, crazy, acrobatic things. But I can still teach them, and I teach these very things to my daughter and other students who want to learn them. And you can use these techniques to get that flexibility and strength. It's just that, do we actually need that as we get older? And I realize I don't, because it can also.
No, I think it's an important point, and it warrants another discussion. Really, as you brought up the point that you're teaching 20-year-olds. Me too. My demographic is probably younger rather than older. So where are these people going? Right. Where are the older people going, or are they stopping practice because they feel that they can no longer do it, or and this is a common thread, isn't it? They can no longer do it as I could, or I don't feel I'm progressing, or I feel like if I'm not doing the way it was meant to be, then I can't do it anymore. And what you show is how practice can be maintained and in fact continue evolving over one's age. So I think that's a conversation that we will
I love teaching the young people, I love teaching the old people. There's two different approaches, but the big message I want to say is that why
isn't it generally seeming to be sustainable? I think is and I think we can say that the way that people are generally practicing is still not sustainable as it could be, for practicing for one's whole life rather than practicing for one's 20s,
I used to love doing performance. I used to love doing performance art.
I've seen you doing some stuff in your young.
And my daughter's doing that. She does performance for the circus and her, flying trapeze and circus arts. So I teach her yoga postures specifically for strength and flexibility. But I warn her in advance, be careful, because this can be quite stressful on the body. And for most people, they're nowhere near able to even attempt it.
Yeah, and the thing is, you don't know at the time. The thing, but the body does, the body it does keep the record, right? You do that for a number of years, you feel fine at the time, but 20 years down the line, and you can't catch a bus anymore, then you feel, was it worth it? Was it, work putting the legs behind the head every day, did it really, give me what I hoped for? But let's save that for next time, guys. And I just want to say thank you, Simon, so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
It's such a pleasure to talk to you. I love what you're doing.
To chat. Really. Thank you very much. And you can always catch Simon. Details will be below. So please like, subscribe, and comment. And we'll see you again soon. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you very much.